Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a story time, as you can see by the title of this video. First things first, thank you guys for subscribing to my channel. You guys love bikini hauls and clothing hauls in general, so I will definitely try to keep producing more of that content for you. But today, you guys, we are filming a story time on a time I cheated on my boyfriend with this famous model and he kicked me out. But I mean, it was expected. Anywho, let's just hop right into this story, okay? So in 2018, approximately 2 years ago now, I had a boyfriend and we'll call him Sean. So me and Sean was going strong for, like, I kid you not, like 3 months at the time. And we kind of fell super deep in love with each other, like really, really fast. And like it was like one of those like relationships where like you would send paragraphs upon paragraphs of like, my heart's hurting, I can't live without you. It was one of those situations. So it was around Fashion Week, and I remember I had texted Sean, and I'm like, hey, like we need to talk, because we were going through shit like the week prior, and like it just kept on like just like prolonging itself. Like we never got to a conclusion of like what we were doing. So the day of this party comes, a Fashion Week party. The party was for state management, and if you know state management is an agency out here in New York City that is just popping. It's lit. Fashion Week, their parties are super lit because, you know, they give access to people who aren't models as well to come and party with models and, like, you know, just have a good time overall. So the day of the party comes, and he finally texts me back to that we gotta talk, and he's like, yeah, we can talk. So I send him like this little paragraph of like, hey, I'm not really happy, like I'm like super depressed over this, like I can't eat, I can't sleep, all this stuff. And the person he wasn't a texter, so he would just like text back whenever he felt like it. So he had his read receipts on, so like I would see if he read it or not. And I kid y'all not, a day would go by and the shit would still be undelivered. And I'm like, I know he's not ignoring me, because like, y'all, it was just a whole situation, right? So my homeboy hits me up like, yo, like we going out to this party. I'm like, yeah, we going, because I'm hurting. I need to go get lit. I need some drinks. Like I can't do this shit, right? So the night of the party comes, I'm dressed up. I'm in the cab. I'm in the Uber on my way. And I'm like, all right, tonight's going to be fun. Ashley, don't think about what's going on with him. Like, you're good. I get to the venue, whatever. I hop out the whip, and I'm like, yo, where you at? To my friend. And he's like, hey, like, my Uber's almost there. I'm 2 minutes away, blah, blah. I'm like, I am outside. As I'm outside, I see the model. Let's call him John. I see John outside. He's this chocolate man, handsome, like, I'm like, I see John. Look at me. I see John, right? And I'm like, I acted like I didn't see him because I wanted him to approach me first. Because like me and John, like he will pop in like my DM like every now and then. Like I seen him in Paris, I seen him in Milan, but it was very like high and by. I seen him. No, we spoke when I was in Barbados. He was like, hey, like when he coming back to New York. I'm like, hey, like I'm not doing Fashion Week this season. All this stuff is going on, right? So I see John at the entrance of the state management's party. So there's a guest list, and like we're all on a guest list. I didn't know that John was coming to meet up with my friend that I was waiting for. Like he was in Uber. So John comes up to me, and I'm like, hi. And he's like, do you know who this is? I was like, do you know who I am? And he's like, Ashley Store, how could I forget? And I'm like, okay. So my friend pulls up, we go inside the party, whatever. Everyone's lit, we're having a good time, we're dancing, we're drinking. And everybody is just like eyeing John, because remember, he's a handsome man. Like he's very big in the industry. Like I've wanted John for a minute. So like the fact that I was there with him, and mind you, this was the first time meeting John in person, because every other time we met was on FaceTime or like just on Instagram, but we never seen each other in person. So seeing him in person, I was like, John. So we get inside the party, and all the girls is like on him, like looking at him, like the press is like taking his pictures and whatnot. And I'm just like, oh brother. So it's time for a photo, and we're all like posing or whatever, and he comes next to me, but you know, for the picture, he puts his hand on my waist. So we're both like, like, for the picture. So after the picture's done or whatever, he's like, do you want a drink? I'm like, yeah. He goes and he gets me a drink. And now we're back in our circle. We're dancing. We're like getting lit. And I think Bobby Shmurda came on. So he like holds my hand and we're like, just caught a body about a week ago, right? So as we catch the body a week ago, I think he like holds my hand up, but like from the back. So like my booty is on him and like whatever. So now the vibe is there. You caught the vibe. Mind you, I remember I was going through it with my ex kinda, but in my mind he was still my man because like, you're not about to leave me, honey. Like, oh no. So we dance whatever, and then he gets me to drink. We're drinking. All of our circle is just looking at me like everybody's like, ooh, ooh. So I'm like, I Ash, like, play it cool. Like, you got a man, or you trying to win your man back, whatever the case may be, what's going on with y'all, whatever. But I'm like, girl, you came out here to have fun tonight. If that dude is not texting you back, you are a bad chick, honey. Don't let no man make you feel less than yourself. Like, you got options, honey. So my mind right now, y'all, is in like overdrive, right? I am confidence is like skyrocketed. I'm like the baddest chick in the party in my mind. I'm like, yo, I got this shit in the bag. So all of a sudden, John like holds my hand and he wanted to go smoke. So he's like, come with me. So he legit holds my hand down. Like, you know how that works. Like the guy's in front of you and he's holding your hand like that. And like I said, we are at State Management's Fashion Week party. Everybody is there. The dude is a famous model. The press is there. It is just a whole situation. And this man holds my hand. I'm like, at first I was flattered, but I'm like, nah, like this shit about to make the vlogs. Like my man gonna see this shit. Like it's not gonna be pretty. First of all, my boyfriend didn't even like the fact that like he wasn't into like the limelight. So he wasn't pressed for all that shit. Like he even hated taking my pictures. Like that's how deep it was. Like when it was us together, he would just want it to be like me and him, which was granted. Like, I had work to do. I had PR stuff to do. I need you to support me if that's what we're about to be doing. Anywho, we go outside of the party, whatever. Everybody's looking. They heads just turn in my head, I'm like, fuck, they probably think like we're together. But I'm like, whatever, like it's not a big deal. So we got outside, he's smoking, whatever, and he like posed me on him. Like he's leaned up on the wall and he posed me in front of him and I'm just chilling. Y'all, I have never cheated on anybody in my entire life. I am 25 years old. I'm a Libra, you guys. Like I am a double Libra at that. My conscience is nothing to play with. Like the moment I even look at somebody, I want to text my dude like, yo, I've been looking at people. Like I'm just not a cheater. But at that time, I was so vulnerable because the nigga was hurting me. And I'm like, why? I felt like, oh my God, like I'm going back to that place that I was like in. And it's not even like a hurt shambles. It was more so of like, I am in love with you shambles. Like, what are we doing? How can we make this work? Because like we just have issues within our own relationship, like ourselves. Like he wasn't really expressive, but I was, and then he started being expressive, and then he was talking like he adores me and he loves me. And anywho, fast forward, right? So I'm leaned up on him or whatever, and out of nowhere, like he posed my face and he kisses me. And my brain, like my freaking ass sunk to my stomach, and I'm like, oh hell no. First I was like, oh hell no, because damn, I'm gonna tell my boyfriend. And oh hell no, because like, damn, like this is like I wanted you to, but why do you not want me when I'm cuffed up? Like why did like it was so, oh my God, right? So he kisses me or whatever. Everybody's looking. We get back inside the party. We're dancing. We're blah. So now the night's over and we're all about to leave the event. So he's like, oh, what you about to do? I'm like, oh, I'm about to go home. He's like, come home with me. Mind y'all, I am very vulnerable at this point. I'm just like, I didn't have shit to do. I'm like, y'all know, like I'm drunk. Once I get back home, I'm about to be in my bag. I'm about to be in my feelings. Like I'm gonna be crying. Like I just don't want to go home. So at the time, I'm on my period. So I'm like, I don't have nothing on me. Like I probably have like one more pad left in my bag. I'm like, I'm on my period. Like I'm not coming to your house. Like I don't have any like supplies or nothing. He was like, yo, we can stop and get some. So I tell my friend, I'm like, hey, I'm about to go home with John. Oh, that's his John, right? I'm like, I'm about to go home with John. I'm about to say his real name. I'm like, I'm about to go home with John. He's like, I just be careful, because remember, they knew each other. So, like, he knew him, or like whatever the case may be. So me and John get into the Uber, and he's like, what do you want to eat? He orders food from his phone, and as we're in the Uber, I'm realizing that we are driving for a minute. I'm like, well, goddamn, like, I'm like, goddamn, where is the crib at? Like, the Boondocks? Like, where is we going, baby? Because make me understand it. So we finally pull up to his crib. Super cute, real like condo aesthetic, and you know I live for an aesthetic. So I'm like, all right. We get to the crib. He's like, no, we stop at Dwayne Reed. We get me some pads, whatever the case may be. Get back in the Uber. We get to his crib. He's like, here's a towel. Like, this is the soap you can use. Like, there's other options here. Here's the washcloth. Whatever. He leaves me in the bathroom. He locks the door. Whatever. I'm in this man's bathroom. Like, if my man calls me right now, at this point I'm gonna have to put my phone on. I'm gonna have to kill my phone, because at this point my phone's dead. Because I don't know what to do about nothing. So I came out the shower, I put on his t-shirt, and I'm just there like, dang, Ash, like, why are you here, bro? Like, what the hell? Like, the night is just escalating. So I come out the shower. The food comes. We're sitting on the couch. We're talking about life. He's talking about modeling. He's like, oh, like, he's a classic man and he's a classic model, and he feels like the industry's this and that and blah, blah, blah. And now that I'm getting to know him a little bit, I'm seeing that he got an ego, and he's a Leo. So he's like, oh, like, don't make him like him no more. And like, he's the best model in the industry right now. And like, he's, like I said, he said he's a classic man and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, like, whatever. So I'm texting my friend that I went to the party with. I'm like, yo, like, I'm here. Like, he's talking like he's a classic man. Like, I'm like, yo, he's kind of cocky. I'm like, I'm not feeling it that much. I'm like, whatever. So the food comes, we eat, blah, blah. And now it's time to go to sleep, right? So this is when I knew, like, shit was about to get a little hectic, right? So we go in his room, and I kid y'all not, he like throws me onto the bed and starts kissing me. And first of all, the kiss was good, but my conscience wasn't having it, right? So we're kissing or whatever, and like after like 2 minutes or like a minute, after like 2 minutes, I stopped him or something, and I was like, look, like, let's just go to sleep, because like, whatever. So he lays next to me, I lay next to him, and we go to sleep. I don't even think we cuddled or nothing. Like, what are we cuddling for? I barely know you, nigga. Like, oh, it was crazy. So I'm laying down next to him. The next morning comes, my boyfriend finally texts me back. He texts me back some shit like, I love you, like, come over later, like, let's talk, like, I'm coming over right now, all this stuff. And I'm like, you coming over right now? I'm like, hey, I'm not home right now, like, I'm at my mom's crib. All this shit I'm lying about. I'm just like, Ash, like, you are down bad, right? So John is still sleeping. So I get out of the bed and I go in his living room and I sit down on the couch, and I'm texting my boyfriend back, and you know, I'm calling him on the phone, and then I hear John coming out, so I hang up. So he comes out in his boxers, and he stands like by the couch, and he's like, well, good morning. And I was like, hey, good morning. He's like, what you doing out here? I'm like, oh, nothing. Like, I just didn't want to wake you. Like, I'm a morning person. Like, I'm an early bird. He's like, I'm like, what? He's like, nothing. And then he's like, what you want to eat? I'm like, oh, I might just eat the food that I left in the fridge last night. So he comes on the couch, he sits next to me, whatever, he puts the game on, and he's like, hey, like, can you heat up the food in the fridge for me? And I'm not submissive, so just him asking me to do that, I was kind of like, because remember, like, the night before, he was giving off very, like, egotistical vibes after a while. Like, it seemed like he was full of himself, he was cocky, like, I just didn't like the way he was moving after a while. So I'm like, whatever, I'm in his house, I'm gonna heat the shit up, like, I don't care, I'm hungry too. So I heat the food up. I come back. We're eating. We're watching. He's playing the game. And I'm like massaging his back. So this is him, right? Well, this is him. And this is me right here. So I'm sitting behind him and my arms are wrapped around his body like that, and my legs are over his legs. So he's like, oh, he got like these books under his shelf, like of like life and spirituality and stuff, because I'm very into that. And I was like, oh, let me see. So I sit on the floor, y'all, and I'm going through the books, and he's looking at me like this, right? Like, I kid you not, he just like this. And I'm looking, I was like, oh my God, I love this book. Oh my gosh. And yeah, I look up. Yeah, I look up, and this young man had his whole penis out. Yeah, like it was out. He was like jerking it off, like legit. He was sitting like this, and he was just like going at it. And I'm on the floor, like about 6 feet away from him. And I look up, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "You gonna come do it for me?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." But like, what are you doing? He's like, "Alright, so then like, don't say nothing." And I was like, "You just gonna like pull it out like that? Like, what is the reason? What is the reason, right?" So he like and he's like jerking off or whatever, and I'm like, "Why are you doing that?" But he's like, "Oh, like you gonna come do it?" I was like, "No, I'm not gonna do nothing." Eventually, he like puts the shit up. For some reason, like the moment switches over, like now we're like regular again. The man was a psychopath. I don't even know. So now we're sitting on the couch and his phone rings or whatever. So he was signed to this other agency in Milan, and his agent had got him signed to that agency in Milan. I don't even know. So his phone rings or whatever, and he answers the phone, but they're arguing. They're talking about like his latest like campaign he just dropped for Calvin Klein. They're talking about other shit, but they're like arguing. Like, it sounds like a relationship. And I'm like, last time you told me you wasn't with nobody. And yeah, I told you that I wasn't with nobody either, but don't lie to me. So he's on the phone, and he's like, they're arguing all this stuff, and like he finally hangs up. So I'm sitting there, right? And I was just like this. I'm like this, like legit, this is my face, because I'm just livid. I'm like, I want to go back home to my man. Like, at this point, you are a shit show. My man's at home about to just leave me in the dump, like at any moment now. So I'm sitting here like I'm defeated. I'm just like, so he gets off the phone, and I was like, I thought you didn't have a girl. The dude goes berserk. He's like, I don't got no girl. Like, you think I'm lying to you? Like, yo, stop playing with me. I'm like, I'm seeing sides of him. I'm texting my friend. I'm like, yo, your friend, I think he's abusive, because the way he's in here acting, like, he's giving me hit me vibes, and I'm not with the shits. So I'm like, I'm not argumentative, y'all. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, do you hear me yelling at you? I'm like, why are you yelling? He like, because I'm like, yeah, like, absolutely not. So then he goes on the balcony. They're still having a conversation. He comes back in his house being like, oh, like, he dropping her agency and blah, 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 whatever the case may be. Something like that. Y'all. So, anywho, right? He's like, he dropping her agency, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh, let's go to the store. So, mind you, I remember I slept over the night before. I wore heels, pants, and like a top, like some strap top to this party. I'm like, do I have to come with you? He was like, yeah, you gotta come with me. Y'all, do y'all believe this man made me walk 3 blocks to the store the next morning in heels? He told me he lived alone, right? When we get back from the store, there's this woman coming out of a room, and I'm like, the woman looks like it could be his mom. So I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? So when we were at the party, his birthday was coming up that August or whatever. So he's like, oh, like he wants me to come to his birthday dinner to be like his date for the dinner, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So now I want to go home, because it is just too much going on. Like, my man just texted me. I'm like, I just want to get home. Like, this day has been a shit. So, I'm like, hey, like, I'm about to dip, blah, blah. And his mood is kind of changing. Like, you can tell he didn't want me to go. But I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving. He's like, text me when you get home, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, how do I get out of here? So he just, like, he legit just opens the door, and he, like, hugs me, and I think he kisses me on my cheek, and he's like, all right, later. And I'm like, Okay. Mind y'all, at this time, I didn't really have no money like that. It's like I had money, but I wasn't really making a lot of money like that. And it was like one of those weeks where like I probably had like $20 to my name until like the Monday that my check was deposited. So mind you, I remember I didn't even know how far his house, I didn't even know where I was at, right? So I'm outside and I call the Uber and the Uber goes decline. I'm like, oh my fucking God. I'm like, how am I about to get home? So I try Lyft, and Lyft surprisingly goes through. But it only goes through because I think my old car was in there and they didn't like toggle the site, the app or something. So I'm in the Uber, I'm riding home or whatever. I get to my home, and once I get out the Uber, it goes payment decline. So I'm like, yo, that's only God, because then I stopped using Lyft because I think I had owed them like the $20, but then by then I wasn't on Lyft no more. I was just like using Uber. So I'm like, I bet. I get home, I text him. I was like, hey, I'm home. I don't even think he responded. I think he just left it or whatever. Days are going by. I text him. I was like, hey, like, do you still want me to come to your birthday dinner? No response. Then the day of his birthday dinner comes, my friend hits me up like, yo, I'm at his dinner and there's this white lady here. I'm like, a white lady? I'm like, yo, what she look like? So he sends me a picture of them two taking pictures outside holding hands. And I'm like, oh my God. So now Detective Ash, I go on Instagram. I'm like doing research. Y'all, tell me why the lady who he was at his birthday dinner with was his fucking agent. The nigga was fucking his agent for booking jobs. He was fucking his agent to book jobs, bro. And I'm like, wow. The whole time goes by. 2 days go by now. Me and my boyfriend, we're not arguing, like we're having like intimate conversation. One morning he wakes up and he's like, yeah, I'm outside. I'm like, okay. So he comes in the crib. We're talking, blah blah. Did we have sex? I think we ended up having sex, or we were about to. Something I forgot if we did or if we didn't after. But I'm sitting on top of him. He's laying down, and I was like, yeah, I have something to tell you. And he was like, what happened? And I was like, look, like, I know you're gonna be mad at me. Like, I'm mad at myself. I'm like, look, I didn't do nothing. Like, I basically told him, I was like, look, like, I was very upset about like what we had going on, and like I kind of was like super vulnerable, and I did something that I shouldn't have done. I went home with this guy, and like I'm like, we kissed, but like I hope you understand. Like I was like, I wanted to see like how my feelings were. Like I just kept it a buck with him. I was like, look, I wanted to see if I really loved you or not. Like, I wanted to see like if I was gonna go full force or if I was gonna feel bad. And I was like, look, then I felt bad, and I was like, I couldn't wait to tell you. I was like, yo, like I just kept on thinking about like telling you, because like this was a man that I was really with, and like we were so open, like he really made me feel like comfortable or whatever. So I'm sitting on top of him and I was like, look, like I'm sorry. And like I think he held my face or something, and he's like, look, I love you, and like I know you wouldn't do nothing like that to hurt me intentionally. Like I understand that I was putting you through a lot of like ups and downs and just like uneasy shit. Like I understand. And I'm like, look, like I promise you, like I didn't do anything. Like we kissed, and like that entire time I was just like focused on like what I was going to tell you. And I think then we had sex afterwards. And then before he left, he was just like, yeah, I promise to like do better, blah blah. And I was like, me too. And I was just like, yeah, like I'm sorry, blah blah. And I was telling him like, yo, that I did not even like kissing him. Like it felt so like blocked. Like this nigga was like my best friend as well. So I'm like yeah, like we were kissing. And I was just like, ew. And he was like laughing. I was like, yeah. And I never heard from John again until like 2 months went by or whatever, I feel like. And then he liked my pictures, and I was like, yo, like niggas is wild. At this point, you guys, I feel like I need to start either like dating older people, or I really gotta buckle down and like focus on like what I really want in a man, instead of just like. But you know what, that night wasn't even about like looking for a man. I was just vulnerable. I was just super hurt that night, and I was like, damn, like I just wanted to feel compassion or like sympathy. And because he was who he was, and like I knew him from before, and like he seemed like such a nice dude, I just went for it. And like he turned out to be a egotistical bozo. So that's my story time, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. And we will definitely be doing more of these as time goes by. Next week, I'm shooting this Sunday coming up. This video is actually pre-recorded. Today is actually Saturday. I'll be uploading this video on Tuesday. So yeah, next week we'll probably be doing a vlog on my photo shoot and things of that nature. But I wish you guys all the best, and self-love, practice self-love. Like if you're feeling vulnerable, just try to stay home. Like this was a time where I didn't have that much self-love to begin with. Like I was super like I was confident. I was always a confident person, but at that time, like my love life was just in shambles, and I was like, yo, like I don't know. I'll make a video on that for like another time. But to all of my new subscribers, thank you so much for coming and subscribing to my channel. I hope you guys stay around and continue to get to know me, and comment down below other things you would like to see me do on this channel. And until next time, bye, and I will see you guys in our next video. Mwah.